If there is only one thing you can take away from today's game, that is the fan base. Our fan base are phenomenal. They sing loud and proud no matter the result. You can always hear them. And that is the only positive I can walk away with from today. Welcome back to the West Ham Network. This is your final word. I'm joined by Tommy and Matt. Tommy, we had a brief word before we came on, mate. I mean, and I know you guys were kind of talking at the end of the game today. You've had a few hours now to kind of compute the information and the game itself. That was bloody disgraceful today, though, wasn't it, Tommy?
It was indefensible. It's one thing to be out of form. You know, it's one thing to be struggling for wins. We've had that all season, but it's never been this. You know, it's never been this complete and utter capitulation, complete lack of fight. I was saying to Matt earlier that this is the first game all season where I feel like the players just lay down. They rolled over and lay down, and it was shocking to see. Because that's the only way that happens. The only way in the Premier League, when you're playing a team you should be able to trade punches with. When that happens, it's because you lay down. It's the only way that happens. And I don't mean just the 4-0. I mean, it's one thing to concede 4 goals. It's another thing to be completely dominated from start to finish, to the point of embarrassment. I mean, if you look at any of the stats from that game, it's just complete and utter embarrassment, humiliation. And it doesn't happen unless one set of players rolls over for the other team. And that's exactly what happened today. And I'm frankly completely disgusted by what I sat through today.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone that watches the channel, they will have heard me bang on for several months about trying to defend the situation. And I suppose some performances have given me a slither of hope. But today just really, there was just nothing about the game. I mean, Matt, you done the match day live with me pretty much throughout the whole commentary. I mean, it was a proper schooling of football, wasn't it? Really, from Brighton.
Yeah, the most damning thing I can say as well is that, first of all, let's just say don't take anything away from Brighton, because this is going to be a massive rant on West Ham. But Brighton, they had like 92% passing accuracy and like 72 minutes in, they had over 450 passes compared to West Ham's like 160 something. So God knows what they finished the game on. But it was a capitulation from start to finish. Like the kickoff at the start of the game. Just that summed up the game. Like the very first thing we do, I'll get at them. Bournemouth, start of the game, Emirates, scored inside 11 seconds. What were we doing inside the first 11 seconds? Like, you couldn't write it up. Like, there was nothing. The most damning thing to say is there was nothing positive to take for that game. Even worse is that we've always said about, you know, what you want to say about the hostile home crowd at the London Stadium, where the fans might get on their backs. And even Steve Cooper last week at Forest made the point that he thought the crowd was about to start turning and West Ham got the goal. The away crowd has always backed the players and everything, and they turned on David Moyes today. That's the first time that, you know, the away fans have gone, no, we've now had enough. And the fact Sullivan was there as well, if he cannot see what everyone else is seeing. Southampton today went and won. They beat Leicester. Bournemouth were very unlucky not to get anything out of Arsenal. We can't say we were unlucky. Like, maybe we should have had 2 goals. Yeah, but then Brighton probably should have had 7 or 8.
You hear like some of the things that, you know, have been going through my mind is, and I've been saying this for several months, who comes in and takes over the job if and only if Moyes was to leave the club. And for me, that was one of my arguments against the whole situation. But after watching today, I mean, there was nothing. I mean, I think at one point, Matt, we clearly, and everyone would have been the same.
Do you want to hear a list?
I'll tell you what. before you go through your list, I'm at the point now. I don't care if it's Gary Glitter.
Because people have said to me, right?
Just get Moyes out the club.
This is one of Sullivan's things. He keeps saying there's no managers out there, right? This isn't me. This is someone on Twitter put this up 2 hours ago. They were like, people keep saying there's no managers out there, right? Now, bear in mind, some of these won't come to West Ham. I'm not saying these are managers you could sign, but the argument of there's no one out there. Luis Enrique, Pochettino, Tuchel, Lampard, Gerrard, Jesse March, Hassan Huttel, Benitez, Paolo Benito, Petra Bosz, Marcel Bielsa, Gennaro Gattuso, Andre Villas-Boas, Rui Ferraria, Fabio Cannavaro are all managers that have managed in the top flight in the last 6 months to 12 months that you could bring in. Problem is, Sullivan wants a cheap 2-month contract. He wants someone to come in till the end of the season. No one at this point, a manager, is going to sign a job on a 2-month basis. You're not going to get it. The same reason that Jesse March didn't sign for Southampton, because at the end of the day, they said, we want a 6 month, we want a deal to the end of the season. I don't know where he seems to get this idea. We got it once, right? That you normally get, you might get a former player in. I don't know what former West Ham player is currently out of management. I mean, Scott Parker might be out of management soon, the way he's going over in Belgium.
DiCanio.
Send a rocket right out the backsides. But the thing,
I mean?
but Matt, when Tommy, I get your point as well. Like, I've been going on. I think the point I was trying to say though was that as someone coming from the other side of the view, where I was always trying to defend the situation and go, there is no manager out there. I'm starting to feel like today after day's performance, because for me there was things that were really clear. Like, you don't have to be a football manager to actually see what's going wrong on the park. And Matt, you again brought it up. I think it was against Manchester United in the midweek in the FA Cup. We keep playing the ball up top and there's no outlet, and it wasn't working and it was never going to work. So to change it in the 85th minute against Manchester United was never going to be the right decision. And today you could see probably within 20 minutes it wasn't going to work. However, you stick by the team within reason for the first half and see what happens. Your opportunity then to change it comes in the second half when you could change it. And if you're not going to change it, you're going to give it 5 minutes. Again, you could clearly see that Brighton were starting the second half how they finished the first half. And that's when I'm sitting there and I'm going, right, what's going through Moyes' head? Is he literally sitting there thinking, right, I'll give it another 10 to see if we can bang a goal in. Danny Ings. You know what, Matt, you said it. Danny Ings was the only player that ran for something, but it was pointless because he was running for nothing.
Yeah, because there was nothing to run to.
There was nothing to run to. So why not make the changes? It's not like that's the baffling part to me. And Tommy, I get it where your point of view comes from because you've been there for a long time. And it's maybe taken me a bit longer to get there. But today, and even though I've seen these decisions being made, today was as clear as possible. You're either 1-0 down, there's still an opportunity in the game. You're 2-0 down, Matt. You said game's done. You were right. But I even turned around and I went, but there's still 35 minutes, 40 minutes to go. And now's the time to make the change. He still didn't make the change. And when we did make changes, in my opinion, we made the wrong changes. And I will bring it up again. Brighton made 2 substitutes and made the substitutes that we should have made.
He changed, not just that, they changed all their attacking players. Yeah. They had the 2 kids. He gave 2 kids a run out, right? 3-0 up. A 19-year-old and a 20-year-old. One, I think they're both wingers, and one's a winger, and one's centre attacking mid. One of them, Ariola had to tip a shot into the crossbar from 25 yards. They were 3-0 up. They brought on 2 attacking kids. I can't remember what the third sub was, and the fourth sub was Danny Welbeck. But they brought Danny Welbeck on initially at 3-0 up for a midfielder. And they were basically went 2 up front. They're like 3-0 up, and they're like, no, let's go and get more. And at 3-0 down, we took off Paqueta and Souček for Lanzini and Downs. We didn't even put Scamacca on. Now, I know there's the flip side of the argument that the game's done at that point, and what's the point in risking him? But confidence, minutes, fitness.
At what point, Matt? At what point?
3-0 down.
All right, 3-0 down. Tommy, go over to you, down. Mate. I mean, from what we've said, what I mean...
Yeah, well, look, I mean, obviously the in-game tactical switches, substitutions is something that Moyes has been criticised for a long time. It's no surprise to anyone that he had absolutely no clue how to turn this game around. And like everybody else, I was just unbelievably frustrated. It's 2-0 down. Can't get any worse than the way we're playing. All it can get worse is the scoreline unless we do something. And I'm just thinking, just do something that will actually help this team. Just try and get some kind of foothold in the game. See if we can shore up the middle of the field a bit. And let's get an extra striker out. Let's get Skamaka in there. Let's get an extra forward in there. Let's put him up there with things. Let's just see if we can work our way back into this thing somehow. But the fact of the matter is that Moyes doesn't really have a clue what he's doing when it comes to changing the tactics with his substitutions. It didn't surprise me. I didn't expect Moyes to do anything productive, to turn it around. I had absolutely no faith that he could do it. I think it's beyond.
And I think that's the thing, though. You've been there, like so. For me, transitioning into the opinion that I may be heading in towards is, you don't even have to be a Moyes in, a Moyes out guy in order to look at that game today and realize changes had to be made. For me, it was as clear as the day that something had to give. Before the game, we knew Brighton held the ball deep. They invited pressure. That's what they do. That's how they'll always work. We fell for it like a ton of bricks. They found the gaps. They played the balls through the middle. They created things. And very quickly, they moved in transition from back to front really quickly. And we couldn't cope with them. We could not cope with that situation. So the problem was they could keep a hold of the ball because I think there was some... I'm not even bothered about the full stats. Matt, at one point in the first half, a crazy stat came out. And it was something like they had something like 380 successful passes or 370 successful passes to our 68 or 69.
Yeah.
And all they did really was just absolute dominate possession, and we couldn't even get into the feel of the game. We had no chance to get into the feel of the game. Yeah.
Right. They like basically choked us out of the game. Because, some people sit there and mind about passing backwards. They did a lot of it, but they passed backwards and they probed and they cut through the lines when it was the right time to do it. More often than not, it was like we were sitting counting. You're like 20, 30, 40 pass plays, and then they might go for the long ball. But at which point you've been chasing the ball for 2-3 minutes. But then as soon as they lost it, they pressed in high numbers, 5s and 6s, forcing the turnover. West Ham, us, we never pressed. There was one point, I'm sure it was in the first half, where they were camped on the edge of our box. And we were still doing this stupid low block dropping off. We had guys like doing a bank of 6 along the edge of the 6-yard box. Like, yeah, have the ball, go and see what you can do. It's like, they're already winning. They don't need to do anything. We never, at no point did we ever press high, chase the game. Second half, we attempted to falsely try and do it by leaving like 4 guys up the pitch at 3-0 down, thinking, I don't know what the plan was. Because even then, like, there was no movement out to whoever was left up front. There was no movement. There was no connectivity. There was no... Everything that could have gone wrong today went wrong. And Moyes, he no longer... He has no excuse. He has no excuse. It's his tactics. It's his players. The players he didn't want have gone. And the players he brought in are his players. So he has no excuse for anything that went wrong. Unless the players now don't believe in Moyes and not listen to his tactics. We hear about before the Forest game that Rice had basically taken team meetings behind the manager's back to get everyone going. And what Moyes said after the game, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Is that where we're at now? That the players are so devoid of listening to Moyes that just, if someone else doesn't have a team talk, nothing happens.
And that kind of, Tommy, do you think then, the question to you is, do you think he's lost the team? I mean, at one point, I think you saw in the background when Paqueta came off the bench or as a sub, and he was sitting on the bench and he was looking over in the distance. You could see him just staring at Moyes. He was just, you just can't help. I couldn't help but think he's looking at Moyes thinking, what the fuck? And I think you said, Matt, at one point, if you're Skamaka on the bench and you're 2-0 down, you're still not getting, and Downs is coming on over you. Now, the Downs situation, Tommy, Downs should have probably been on a lot earlier, because we couldn't get the ball in the park. We couldn't get a hold of the ball. So you need players to go and chase that ball and find it. What's going through his head, mate?
Well, who knows? Nothing of any common sense, anyway. And as Matt was touching on about the excuses, I mean, there's absolutely nowhere left for him to hide. I mean, he can't make the excuse about lots of injuries. We don't have lots of injuries. He can't make the excuse about, well, it takes players a little while to get bedded in. We're long past that point. And to answer your question about having lost the players, today was the first day where I thought maybe he has. That performance to me was so bad and so lacking in effort and drive that you have to wonder about it. Up to this point, I didn't think so. I thought that players, even though we weren't playing well, I didn't feel like the players weren't trying. Today was the first day where I thought these players are not even trying. I mean, they're capitulating. They're just chucking in the towel and cashing in their chips and walking away from the table.
It did look a bit like headless chickens, though, didn't it?
Yeah, and I just no, that's not. I'm not necessarily saying they've mutinied or anything like that. I think we'll see. What happens at home to Villa. We'll see what kind of a response there might be if David Moyes is still in charge. Hopefully, he's not. But this is the first time today where I think maybe he has actually lost the dressing room. I don't see how can after today how could he not have lost it? I have to ask myself, to be completely honest. That was kind of really scraping the bottom of the barrel today. And if you're a player, even like what's in your head tonight, even when it comes to Moyes, and you're thinking like, we're still here after so many games this season. Is it 23 we've played now or something?
25.
25, yeah.
25, sorry, yeah.
And yeah.
At some point, even the players have got to be thinking, we're banging trouble with this guy. We're banging trouble here. We might get relegated with Moyes in charge, and the players must be thinking it. They must be. And today's performance makes me think that they've lost all faith in his ability to manage this team properly.
I think another thing to consider is that it's the lack of ideas that I'm starting to really notice. It's come to the forefront of my mind as well. It's like 1 minute, because we play 4 against Nottingham Forest, we have to play 4 against Brighton. We understand Moyes, and do you know what? This is coming as clear as day that Moyes likes consistency. So, you know what? I think when me and Russ did the Starting 11 show for the first time this season, we actually got the team pretty much bang on. But that's potentially a problem because, as you listen to a lot of ex-pundits, every single team has brought in new players. And a lot of these teams have gone for the forward-thinking manager, young European manager, experience, forward-thinking. You look at Brighton, you look at the situation that they're doing, the manager's not just continued what Potter was doing, has grown what Potter was creating at Brighton and build on that and built on that. And that's what they're doing. But with us, it's like, it's as if like, the line, everything's not aligning. The fans aren't aligning with the board aren't aligning with the manager isn't aligning with the players aren't aligning with the fans. It's one way or the other. It's like today, why can't we adjust tactics through the game? Why doesn't Moyes choose to adjust tactics? Why doesn't he choose to adjust the substitutes? And that's the concern I've got now. So the concern is, now I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, do you know what? Maybe we do need a bounce of a new manager because this is getting serious. We have got, what did you say, 13 games to go in this season? Yep. 13 games to go.
We probably need 16, 17 points from 13 games.
Yeah.
We need to go over a point a game when we're not even at a point a game.
And that loss today, Tommy, is going to do us no favours at all.
No. Geez, I mean, I can imagine, if you're one of the players now, I mean, it absolutely heaps the pressure on for the game against Villa next weekend. Absolutely piles it on. I mean, the pressure those players are going to be under going into that game. I mean, it's going to be back to like we have to win this game. We absolutely have to take 3 points. And so I think the best way to try and ensure that is to give them some kind of a lift.
Yeah.
And the only kind of real lift you could give them right now is to sack Moyes and bring in a new manager with fresh ideas, even though he won't have much time with them. I think just the fact that there's a new manager there with a fresh approach and the training is different, I think that in itself would just lift the players, and they could almost draw a line under what's happened already this season and say, right, okay, fresh start now, blank slate. All that matters is what we do from here on in. So, let's get after it. Like if Moyes is in charge next weekend, I mean, I don't see how we bounce back from this to the point where we can beat a quite decent Villa side who are not under anything like the same kind of pressure.
That's the thing. No, is it a bad excuse, Matt, to think that there's 3 worse teams than West Ham in the Premier League, and that's potentially what will save us? And do you think that's where the board's head's at?
I naively think that's where Sullivan's at. I do think. I mean, look, let's still be real. It's only 4 points from us to like 12. And yes, it's meltdown after one game, but it's the manner of the game. But I do generally think Sullivan's gambling I think it's about £7 million on sacking Sullivan on the gamble of, is it 200 million these days staying in the Premier League? He's gambling that on the fact that there's 3 worse teams. Now, the issue I've got is that I don't think at the moment there is 3 worse teams. I think there is about 6 very average, poor/average teams. But on any given week, it seems that any one of the 6 can go and get a result, or equally can go and get hammered. So I wouldn't say there's 3 worse teams than West Ham. I'd say there's probably 5 teams that might be around the same as West Ham, but I don't think there's anyone worse. I think it literally is going to be, like I said, the next 2 games of Villa and Southampton. Can we win back-to-back games in the league? Can we jump up from what is essentially, where are we, 15th on 23? Can we win 2 games back-to-back and go up to 29 points?
Yeah, I mean, Matt,
that is Sullivan's. That is someone's there. That Paul Sullivan's playing Russian roulette.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally at the crap table rolling the dice, hoping it comes up, 6. I mean, he's playing with fire, and I don't know why. Why is he doing this? It can't be for 7 measly million quid. It can't be.
No,
I mean, 7 million quid in Premier League terms now for a club like us. It's peanuts. It's peanuts.
Yeah.
Just sack him. What are you doing? It's bizarre behaviour.
The thing is, they obviously have.
This is a question. Well, this is a good question, though, because this is a struggle. Question for the panel: how far back do you have to go to remember a worse West Ham performance in a league game? Worse than that today.
This is certainly the worst under Moyes' tenure.
I genuinely think it could be. In my opinion.
I'm going back thinking maybe Pellegrini. You had his last game in charge. We lost. Was it 2 or 3-0 to Leicester at home? And Leicester put out their second team. They rotated all 11 players, and we didn't lay a glove on them. Again, Pellegrini. Was it Pellegrini? We lost that away game at Burnley. Yeah. When Roberto punched it into his own net.
Was it Pellegrini we played Liverpool at the end of the season, Nordveit, and Bilic. It was Bilic, and they gave up at the end. It was just, remember at home, we got
certainly this is the worst performance.
It got to be under
Moyes come back in.
Do you agree with that, Tommy?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, look, we've seen far too many poor performances, but I haven't seen one as abject as this. I really haven't. Look, we've had times where we've played, big teams, where Man City have maybe walloped us 4-0, and you can at least make the excuse that Man City are, world class and one of the very best clubs in world football. And you can understand how, if you're not at it, they might tear you apart. But this is not that. This is Brighton. They're having a good season. They got some good players. They're well managed. But that should not happen against Brighton, ever. I mean, it's like, I'll bet you this is what Southampton fans felt like when they got battered 9-0 by Leicester. I bet you they're thinking, this should never, ever happen. It just shouldn't. The only way it happens, like I said, is if you roll over. You roll over. And that's what we did today. To a man.
And to be honest with you, Tommy, we said this during the show. We could have been that could have been 6 or 7 today.
6, 7, 8. It could have been.
It could have been, yeah. I mean, they took their foot off the gas and cruised.
Yeah.
Once they were 3-0 up, they just cruised. They just.
Yeah.
And we still couldn't.
The rest of it was just like a training.
That was the worst bit. That was the worst bit.
Right, listen, we've got.
They took the foot off.
That was the most humiliating part for me. I thought after they went 3-0 up, I actually thought, okay, we're actually letting them now take the absolute piss out of us, and the players didn't even respond to that.
Yeah, right. Let me bring in our first guest. You've got 5 minutes, Dalek. So on you go, mate. Give us your opinion.
He needs to go, mate. I'm really frustrated. No, listen. I mean, that was the worst performance I've ever seen. I mean, I was at the game. I only arrived about 7 minutes at home, and literally, I can't see us. I can see us pulling him down. I mean, taking us down.
Yeah. So you went to the game today, Dalek? Yeah.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we had the fans loud and proud. There's no ifs or buts about that. No one's taking that away. But like you said, mate, quite possibly one of the worst performances in a West Ham team in our modern lifetime. Actually, you know, it's fine that we can go on and say we've had.
12. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, the last time, you know, we can talk about the last couple of seasons and, you know, given positives, but there's starting to become a lot of negatives that could outweigh the positives by a million miles. And today was maybe for me a realization of where we're at, if I'm being really honest. And for you, Cyber, I mean, what went wrong and why didn't Moyes change it?
What it is, I think he started the lack of players as well. I think because you know I think we missed Fabianski so much today and Sufel because I don't know if you guys watched it, but Ben Johnson, what was he doing? We missed Sufel so much. That's what I'm saying. In the summer, we need like a new right back because I can't. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put that one over to you, Tommy, while Cyber's on with us. I mean, what do you think we missed Fabianski and Sufel today?
I'm not sure if Fabianski could have done much about what happened today. You know, I mean, what's he going to do for being completely outplayed and they're getting shots off and all the time? And you know, I don't think there was any kind of howlers from Areola today. Not sure there was an awful lot he could do about it. So I kind of feel bad for him coming in. He's just come in because of injury. He shipped 3 Wednesday and 4 today, and he's probably thinking, actually, the bench ain't so bad, you know. I've changed my mind. I'm happy to sit behind Fabianski for a while. Well, certainly while Moyes is here. But,
what do you think about Sufel?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, Ben Johnson had a stinker, but Sufel may have played better. It's hard to know. I mean, we're kind of trying to second guess things, but yeah, I mean, certainly Sufel's a better player than Johnson. He may have actually decided to mark up at the far post on corners even. But, you know, I mean, for 2 of the goals, I mean, Johnson was really, really poor. I mean, really poor.
I'm sorry, that goal is just, that goal was unforgivable. I'm not just picking at Johnson either, because there is, if you go back and see the freeze frame, that picture, it's either 6 or 7 West Ham players are in like an L shape along the white line of the box, of the 6-yard box. And there's one player in the 6-yard box, and it's Johnson.
Go on, Dalek.
Sorry, no.
Yeah, Anto, can you hear me?
Yeah, go. Go on. Can you hear us? No? We lost you. I think we've lost you.
We lost him.
Yeah, I think we have lost you. Cyber, if you can hear me, mate, we've lost you. So,
yeah, I can hear you.
Go on then. What are you going to say? Your final point? We've got a few guests lining up.
My final point is, if Moyes got a sack within the next couple of days, who would you take as an interim?
I'd taken Perdue. I'd taken Alan Perdue. I think he would do
Tommy. Holy shit, Tommy!
I'm not joking.
Hasn't Hutton.
I think Perdue would do it till the end of the season. I think he would. He knows the club, and
Yeah, that's what I would agree as well.
he's not a terrible manager, Perju. I think he would actually come in. I think he would improve us pretty
And plus, he
quickly.
got us to a final in 2006. So yeah,
Yeah, and I think I think when Perju was here before, he did a good job. He's not a terrible manager by any stretch.
Yeah.
I think Perju is someone who could come in and get us enough points between now and the end of the season.
Yeah.
If you
Cheers,
needed an emergency stopgap manager for the next 13 games, I think he could do a lot worse than Perju. He knows the league as well, Premier League. He'll slot right in. So yeah, I'd if you couldn't get I'd rather bring in Perju for 13 games than to give Rafa Benitez a 3-year.
I do agree with you on that one. To be fair,
Cheers, Anton. Thanks so much, mate.
Right,
Have a
Simon,
nice
take
day.
it easy, mate. Thanks for joining us. Got a few more guests lined up, so I'm going to bring them on just now. Freno, can you hear me okay? I don't know if you've joined. Freno, you're in. Can you hear us? You're on mute and your camera's off. If you can hear us, Freno, you're on mute and your camera's off. I'm going to bring on the next guest instead. Lawrence, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Oh, mate, how you doing? Actually, not good, as we all are. I think that was the worst performance that I've seen from us. And I think the part that bothers me the most is I saw no heart in the team. And I think Tommy said, and you all said, is that they didn't play for the shirt. They were lost, sloppy, no energy. At first, I thought, okay, the strategy was okay. We were pressing high at first, so we were trying to make that. So you thought it was well, but there was just no energy. And actually, after we started falling apart after the second or third goal, my thought process was the same thing what happened with Man U on Wednesday, where once we fall apart, it's London Bridges falling down. We fall apart. So I think the part now is and I think you have made a perfect statement, is that I don't care now who replaces Moyes right now. It can't get any worse than this. This was an embarrassment today. This was a total embarrassment. Johnson, I mean, I was pro Johnson a couple years ago and all this, and I'm telling you, this was his worst performance. He essentially gave up 3 goals. He played bad defense that gave that opportunity, and Bowen got the penalty, but it was because he blew the defense on first there. And then on the set piece, you saw him. He stood there when the guy was in front of him, and he's looking like, what's going on? It was him. He should have been there for that. So I'm just very frustrated. Something has to change. And, my real frustration is I need to see some heart in the bellies of our players. This is West Ham. You know what? If we lost 1-0 and I saw that the boys were giving everything they had, I would be okay with it. It sounds crazy, but I did not see that. I see them giving up, as you guys discussed, and it's as you know, it's upsetting.
I think and thanks for coming on, Lawrence, and hope you're well as well. But when it comes to the situation today and talking about like the manager, and you take anyone, before I'd be like, nah. But I think I said during the stream earlier on with you, Matt, like, fuck, I think we need that bounce. I think we kind of need that bounce. And right now, you said you're gambling with keeping Moyes in the situation compared to gambling by bringing someone in who could give you that bounce. And right now, the bounce seems more appetizing, and then a rebuild come the summer. Because let's get this right. Over to you, Tommy, for a second. We have a rebuild coming in the summer, no matter what. If we are Moyes in or Moyes out, if Moyes stays or Moyes doesn't, because we've got players out of contract and there's an aging group of players there, and the Declan Rice situation as well. So we've got a major rebuild coming in the summer, and they're gambling with fire here, aren't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, how could you possibly justify allowing Moyes to spend more money? You couldn't possibly. I mean, he spent, if you include Danny Ings into it, you're talking about the bones of £200 million or thereabouts that he's spent, since the summer. And look what we've gotten for it. You couldn't possibly justify writing another check for that guy. I mean, who would do it? What businessman would do it? If you're running any business and you have an employee that you've given a very important job to, say a project, and you've put a lot of money, hundreds of millions into this project, and he's making an absolute pig's ear of the project, there's absolutely no way you give him more money to continue the project, you don't even allow him to continue the project. You fire him because you're saying you're doing a terrible job, and we can't have this kind of money being wasted. We don't have an inexhaustible well of money. It's inconceivable that he would be allowed to continue in this job. It really is. I can't believe he's here now. I mean, he should have been long gone.
Yeah.
The emperor has no clothes.
This is a very, very good comment from Andy. Wolves were getting battered by Spurs. Their manager made two clear player changes, a change of system, and they beat Spurs. Moyes cannot do that in training, let alone during a match. Moyes out. But this is what we said earlier on. You know, things are not working, so why not make a change? What is it, Lawrence, for you? What is it that's going through? You know, you're watching the game. It's not working for Danny Ings. Last week in the week, it wasn't working for Antonio. We're not getting a hold of the ball. We can't hold up the ball. Today was clear as mustard that we couldn't hold on to any form of possession. We weren't winning the first balls. And every time we were intercepting, we were giving the ball straight back to Brighton to come on the attack. And so nothing was happening. So in your opinion, what's going through Moyes' head with that decision today? Because one thing we have to take on board is it's not just Moyes today. Like you said, Lawrence, the players were a disgrace on the park.
And Anton, that's a perfect point. And in my opinion, I think the players are starting getting frustrated with Moyes because they do not like his tactics. We know for years now, or at least a couple years, Benrahma and him have not had the best relationship. For putting Benny off at halftime was the ridiculous move I ever saw. I'm not saying don't bring Fornals on. Souček should have probably came off. But the thing is now they're just tired. They're tired of his strategy. They're tired of their positioning. We've always said, we've all had different discussions in Twitter, whatever. I would like two up top. I would have brought Scamacca on, and I would have had Scamacca and Ings on top, and then I would have decided who goes off after that. But I think that the players now are frustrated with his strategy and how he's doing things. And the sad part about it is now when they lose that, you see it. They lost energy. This is I know for me, it's one of the worst performances I've seen from West Ham in a long time. And because it's kind of where they gave up. I have friends of mine all across the world who follow West Ham said this is the first time at the 80-minute mark they turned off the television. So just imagine what the players are doing and the Benrahmas are doing, because why would you put Benrahma off at halftime? I have no idea. It was ridiculous. So I think this is something that's not going to be – it's irreversible, I think. I think between Moyes and the players, I don't think it's something you can heal. And I think the leadership of West Ham needs to make the change now. And I wish I had a perfect answer for it. I started looking at my, the different type of tactics and what positions and stuff like that, but it's just not happening. I mean, we try. It just, I don't know. I'm frustrated.
Matt, on Lawrence's point there, what do you think?
I don't know anymore. Like I'm just bewildered.
Exactly.
What?
I mean, the worry.
What do players even do? What do the players do in training?
The worry is it might be too late.
Yeah,
it very well could be.
I mean, even a manager coming in now, you're hoping for that new manager bounce, but there's no guarantee you'll get an immediate bounce. I mean, but you're giving someone very few games to fix this. I mean, he's got to fix it pretty much immediately.
Let's look at the whole situation, though, as well. Like, look at our squad on paper. And I know it's easy for us to say, on paper, we should be there, but we're not there. But what we believe, I believe the panel here right now, the four of us are thinking, on paper, our squad is very, very good. We've got quality players there. But what we're not seeing is the utilization of this squad, the change of formations, players being favoured that shouldn't be favoured, players being reasonably defensive when we turn up against teams, not attacking at teams. Not taking the game to teams, not switching up formations during a game, all that sort of stuff. The question is, if you bring in a new manager with new mindsets that tries this shit, then surely that's a gamble, which current gamble is. Mm-hmm. That gamble could also be a gamble worth trying. Or are we solely betting on the fact that we honestly believe there are three worse teams than us, even though Southampton picked up points today, even though Bournemouth at least took the game to Arsenal for a certain point and walked away with nothing? do we still believe that the owners and Moyes believe there's 3 worst teams? We're going to ride this storm out. We're going to stay up, and then you'll see why we're sticking with Moyes. Tommy or Matt?
Problem is, right, I do generally think that's what Sullivan's thinking, right? But here's the biggest thing for me to sum up Moyes in any one go, right? We're 8 months into the season. 8 months, right? He still does not know his best formation or his best team. Quite literally, that's his one job. He has trainers to do training during the week. His sole focus is, what do I need to get the players to do during the week to win the game on Saturday? What players do I need to pick? What way do I need to play? And 8 months in, he doesn't know.
And know what? I have a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Matt, but I have a question for you guys how do we fix non-performing clinical performance? Our passing is atrocious. You can watch other Premier League matches. You can watch us against other teams. Our moving forward, Paqueta is a different type of breed from Premier League, which is kind of good. Quick give and go, give and go passes and stuff like that, which is good if you have a team that's used to that, and we've gotten that. But I think we're one of the worst teams. I'm sorry to say this. We're one of the worst teams in Premier League on passing the ball effectively and progressing up the pitch. And what do you guys think about that?
I'll quickly come in and interject, and we'll go around the room with that one, Tommy. But for me, I genuinely don't think we're playing any different to we have for the last 2 seasons. It's just that other teams know how to play against West Ham now, and we're predictable, and we don't change. So therefore, when we stayed up 2.5 seasons ago with Moyes during COVID times, and then, we had the Jesse Lingard bounce during that time as well. The next season, we had a very good one, qualified for the Europa League. Last season, the Premier League form wasn't great, but we did have a European tour to remember. But teams have now realised for 3 seasons in a row that West Ham still play the same football. And no matter who you bring in, Paqueta, Scamacca, Cornet, Agerd, West Ham are going to set up this way or this way. And I think, Matt, we done a stream once, and was it not the Brentford manager that said something about Moyes' tactics or West Ham's tactics?
Yeah. When they beat us just after World Cup.
Yeah.
We lost in the league game, and then we beat him in the cup game. But in the league game, he literally said, he was like, we knew we could just give West Ham the ball and just sit back because they won't know what to do with it. But I've literally built my, the ethos, the ideology of the way Brentford play, I built off West Ham under David Moyes, which is be deep, be athletic, then when you nick the ball, be quick in transition, get players forward and flood the box and score. But the problem is we've lost that transition. We don't have the transition anymore. I said to you last week as well, we don't buy pacey players. If you're going to build your team off of sit back, absorb, be quick in transition and counter-attack, at the very least, you need very quick wingers that can get on the spring on the counter-attack. So when you leave the one up front, they can get around it. We don't have that. We have very technical players. And then Moyes tries to make up for that by playing Souček as a number 10 to not win headers. That for me, it's not going to make a massive change, but that is for one change I would go. I would remove Souček from the team and bring in Fornals or Lanzini.
And to be honest with you, Matt,
hold on to the ball.
And to be honest with you, Lawrence, I genuinely think most managers that would come into West Ham, that would probably be the first move. I don't think with respect to how Souček has played, not today's game, but the last couple of games, I still think he is a common denominator as to why West Ham sometimes perform negatively. Antonio, a common denominator for why West Ham play negatively.
His passing is atrocious. He cannot, if you try to put him next to Paqueta and Paqueta's style of quick passing, he can't do it. How many times did he pass the ball on the one side and he go out of bounds, or you saw frustration on their players because he didn't push it up? That one time in the first half when he should have pushed it up the Ings, he pushed it to the side. It's a common denominator. And I want to say one thing because I loved Souček and what he's done for us in the last couple of years, and when we were getting them set pieces like it's crazy. But right now he's not performing, and we're not making changes. and it's sad.
Tommy?
Yeah, look, it doesn't matter who you give to David Moyes. He could have Haaland up front. It wouldn't make a blind bit of difference because he'd never get the ball. It just doesn't matter who you give him. He can't use them. He hasn't got a clue, frankly. He's got a one-track mind, and it's easily sussed out. And as soon as teams did suss us out, that was the end of it for David Moyes at West Ham.
There's no plan B.
No, there's no plan B. Even in game, you saw today, he didn't have a clue what he was doing.
We could see it sitting here watching. We could see up to 20 minutes. It's not working. It needs to change.
Yeah, half time he brings up.
He made a
Benny
defensive sub at half time.
Yeah,
he actually said that after the game. He said he took Ben Rama off because we were getting exposed down that side.
Yeah,
he didn't make an attacking change. It was a defensive change when we're losing.
Yeah, he thought, I'm going to take Benny off and put Cornells on. That'll sort it. So what?
Defensive. Yeah, he said it was a defensive sub.
He
said after the game. He said
after. What are you doing?
Bear in mind, it was Johnson was the one that was getting Skindle game. That was the most
skin.
Part
Yeah.
of me.
Yeah.
Johnson was getting, Matoma had Johnson every time.
Yes,
I mean, Matoma. I mean, what a player.
Oh,
Before we, Lawrence,
Yep.
you got any kind of final points you want to ask, and we'll get the next guest on.
No, thank you for this therapy because I feel better because I give vent my
I
frustration.
don't know how you feel better, mate. I feel awful.
Well, it's therapy, right?
I get your point.
You know, I'm flying high last Saturday. The wife said this Saturday she doesn't even want to talk to me. So it goes to show you.
Well, misery loves company, Lawrence. So
yes, mate. No, I appreciate you bringing me on, guys. No matter what, we're all iron. So
yeah,
we'll keep pressing on. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Much appreciated, mate. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So many comments in here. Skevy is asking, can the fans find anything positive in the team? If you're
In
talking
the
about
team,
today,
yes.
Today,
no.
From today,
The team
absolutely
yesterday,
not.
no.
Today was horrific in every way.
yeah. I'm just saying I don't mind one striker up front, but it needs to be a striker who's actually a striker and one who's capable to play on their own. None of our strikers are capable of this. Do you agree with that?
Well, yes and no, right? Because like Tommy said, it could be Haaland, but if there's no one within 40 it could be Cristiano Ronaldo in his prime. But if there's no one within 30, 40 yards of him, but you know what? Maybe Moyes needs to go 2 up front.
Yeah. I mean, like, what chance did we create for Danny Ings today? What chance did Danny Ings? What chance did Danny Ings have to score a goal today?
To be quite honest, one of my most memorable things about today's game in terms of West Ham was one shot from Jared Bowen, and my most memorable thing was that I think we managed 8 consecutive passes in a row in the team. That
was like it was 3-0 down near the end of the game. Like, or was it 4
I think we get a steak knife for that.
The most damning thing, right, was the commentator over the entire 90 minutes. Even he was saying that this is a poor West Ham performance. West Ham could do so much better than this. I don't know what this West Ham team's doing. At some point, they're going to start playing well. It just never came.
Earlier on Twitter, I saw a Brighton fan who was at the game saying it's one of the worst opposition performances he's ever seen at the stadium.
Yeah. Oh fuck. So it's a bad day. It's a bad day at the office. It's not just a bad day at the office. It's just bad in general, to be honest. And I don't know where do we go from here, Tommy?
Championship, probably.
Fuck it.
At least we get more games next season. At least at least we might get rid of the. At least the tourists might finally leave.
Yeah, I mean,
we're
literally
shut the lower tier off and have 40,000 in the next season, the championship. But at least we enjoy it most weeks.
Yeah, we're in a situation where we're literally just going to have to cross our fingers and pray that there's going to be 3 teams that don't manage to pick up more points than us. I mean, that's all we can do. Cross our fingers and pray that there will be 3 teams of maybe there's 6 or 7 of us in this thing now. We have to pray that there's going to be 3 of them that just are more horrible than us at picking up points for the rest.
I mean, look, the only thing we can hope for right now is that we've played Brighton back into form because they play Leeds next week. So hopefully they can at least do us a favour and beat Leeds next week. Like,
Let's
the
talk.
thing is,
Isn't that shameful?
Yeah, no,
Like,
that,
I
that
mean-
is where we're at. Yeah, that
Like
is where we're at.
I've been, do you know, like our game is on, and I'm checking. Like, oh, I wonder how
the
it's going.
scores.
I shouldn't be checking. I should in March. I should not be checking to see how Bournemouth are doing.
yeah, I know,
Yep.
I know.
It's
Can we-
ridiculous.
4 points.
can we
It's
jump on
still
it?
Not...
Can we jump on and talk about Declan Rice? Again, I mean, there was no one who played well today, and usually, even when we don't play well, you expect a performance from him. But several times he gave the ball away. He was making lunging tackles. Nothing was connecting for him today. Then he made some comments after the game. Don't know if he was dissecting that towards maybe Roy Keane's comments, and maybe the fans have taken that on board in terms of the fans. But the commentator did ask him something about, about criticism. And he said something along the lines of, I don't really listen to them. They've never put the shirt on, so how can I listen to them, or something like that. If you haven't heard it, it's definitely worth a listen. Tommy, Declan Rice situation, what are your thoughts?
Like the other players, just needs to fucking sort himself out. Today was completely unacceptable from him too. I don't care if he's leaving in the summer. We all know he's going. I don't give a shit.
Someone put a comment on Twitter. It was for a discussion, and it's generally worth a discussion, right? Did West Ham, obviously hindsight's 2020, did West Ham get it wrong making him the captain? Did West Ham make Rice the captain, hope to try and get him to stay? When
Yes.
actuality, maybe I don't know who else would make the captain of that team. Maybe Bonner should have been captain.
Well, to be honest, I think if you're, the more you think about it, it doesn't add up why you would give someone a temporary captain's role. It doesn't. I don't know what that would do for the ethos of the club. I don't know what that does for the background. I don't know what that does for the players that are there. Because if you know you're going,
you've got to only had him for a year.
Yeah, and you know he's not going anywhere. So what does a Gerd think? What does Paqueta think? Does that then breed players wanting to leave?
Your captain's only going to be here for the year.
Yeah. So does that breed that I'm trying to think about it myself. I'm trying to put it into context myself. And I join a company because a manager looks at me, thinks, great, I'll bring him in. I'll give you an opportunity, but then my manager's going to leave.
Team leader. Yeah,
my team leader's going to leave within a year of me being there because they've seen a better opportunity somewhere else.
Predetermined.
And it's already predetermined. You already know once you've joined the club. That's the part that kind of gets me a little bit. I've done a video on it recently, and so did Luke. And it really frustrates Luke. Luke's totally all for, like, Luke is ready for Rice out now, like, dropped from the team.
Well, I've already accepted he's gone, but I've never really thought about it. It just come up today, and I thought, you know what? It does raise a very interesting debate. Like, because, like, no offense, because, like, you need, like, James Ward-Prowse at Southampton. Calm. He's a calm leader. He galvanised the team. He knows when to say bad things, when to G people up. Declan Rice, like, in that second half, just lost his head entirely. And like I said, he got that booking where he snapped in for what was a bad tackle. And you think that's the point. Normally, you'd want the captain to put your arm around him and be like, "Hey, come on, like, we're still in this, or even if we're not in this anymore, we can't be having you give away a stupid booking because we're going to need you down the line. And down the line, those bookings might add up. But who on the pitch does that when it should have been him doing that? And who was the most senior player on that pitch at that time?
Yeah,
is it Declan Rice? Look.
Yep, no, I get your point. Listen, we've been on for nearly an hour, so I'm going to give. The show is called The Final Word. Of course, there's loads of comments, but I think it's. I think we're going to give you the final word, Tommy. We're going to put you under the caution while you're doing it. I'm going to throw up some comments. So, over to you, mate. Give everyone your kind of final opinion, final word, what we need to do moving forward. You name it. Go for it.
Moyes' position is untenable after today. There is no excuse for allowing him to continue after today's performance. It was utterly embarrassing, and it's going to be very, very difficult for us to stay up. It's a difficult defeat to recover from, especially when you've got the same manager in charge for the next game. I don't know why Sullivan hasn't done it yet. It's entirely baffling to me. It's hard to believe it's to save 7 million quid. I mean, that would be the most bizarre reason I'll have ever heard to keep him in a job, considering the predicament that we're in. We are in real danger of the drop. Real danger. And we need to get someone in right now to be in charge for that Villa game next week. Let him have the week training with the players. A new manager will be able to navigate Larnaca away. But he needs to be able to get these players ready for the next 13 games. We need that bounce, even if it's someone just to come in till the end of the season, just to give the players a lift, give them something different on the training ground, some competence around the training ground that they can get behind, where we can turn this thing around, because there is literally no excuse for not firing him now. There is none. Whatever excuses you may have been able to make before, even if they were not great ones, you can't even come up with a bad excuse to keep him at this point. He has got to go, and he's got to go now. He cannot be taking training on Monday at West Ham. It's just an intolerable thought to me that he would take training on Monday after that. Sack him now. Get another manager, whoever it is. Just let's get somebody in and let's go with him till the end of the season and try and get ourselves out of this. Because with Moyes, we will be either relegated or incredibly close to it, and that is a gamble that we cannot afford to take with our club. It's bad to get relegated at any time, but it will be absolutely disastrous for us to get relegated now. We'll have a massive fire sale of players. Oh, it will set us back years. Years. We're not Norwich or West Brom, who can go down, do a quick, rejig and push to get back up again. What we will lose if we go down is a lot. We will lose a huge amount. I mean, we'll have to get rid of a very good squad of players. And we're back to square one, and we have to figure out how to rebuild back to where we were at the start of this season, and that could take a very long time. So why Sullivan would dally now, I just don't understand. He has to go, and immediately.
Go get Will Steele out of Reims. Just go get him.
I see the comment up there earlier on, talking about Will Steele. Well, listen, I do appreciate, thanks Tommy, thanks Matt, and obviously thanks to everyone in the chat for engaging. Thanks to Lawrence, Freno. I seen you come on, and then I seen your camera pop on and then pop off, so apologies for that. Don't know what happened there. Cyber jumped on as well in the chat. Really do appreciate it. Listen, we probably could go all night. You can have loads of guests coming on, but we need a bit more time to compute and think about it. I think I'm going to come back on, go do a pre-record. I'll give you my kind of genuine thoughts and let you know where I'm at with it as well. But I do appreciate everyone watching. When it's a tough one to watch. If I'm being honest, it is a tough one to watch, because finding the energy to come on and talk about such a shit performance, quite possibly one of the worst I've seen in this decade, like a long time. Like nothing, so you can talk about performances we've had in the past, where at least we've scored a goal or had a run of play or had 10 minutes on the ball, but today we had nothing. And someone made the comment there earlier on, it looked like Declan Rice didn't even want the ball at several times in the game as well, which is it's a big, bold statement to make, but it did look like that. So really tough. Anything else from you lads before we head?
No, I've had my say, thanks.
he's all moist out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned in. We'll bring some more content over the next couple of days, and I was going to say fingers crossed we can get something positive on the go, but who fucking knows where that's going to happen. Anyway, from Matt, Tommy, myself, come on, you Irons.